know the day destroys the night. Night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side, yeah. We chased our pleasures here, dug our treasures there. Can we still recall the time we cried? Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side.
I like me the Doors. That Jim Morrison guy. Oh, wow. What an amazing, amazing, amazing talent. Gone too soon. One of those things. You know, his dad, his dad didn't think he was any good. Yeah, his dad, when he was thinking about a musical career, actually said, "You can't sing. What are you doing? You got to go out and find yourself a real job." But, you know, interesting enough, his dad was in the military. He was a captain of the USS Maddox. I just read a really good book here, from the guy from Dirty Jobs here. Excellent story. And it talks about George Maddox, or Morrison, George Morrison, and his relationship with his son, which you normally, parents and their kids don't always get along. That's one of the things that happens in the world. But kind of an interesting thing. George Morrison ends up in charge of the USS Maddox. He's off the coast of Vietnam. Now, at this point, we had first kind of helped out the French, who were trying to take care of their colony of South Vietnam. And then after that, the French got tired of it and left. And so the South Vietnamese were on their own, and the war was going badly with North Vietnam. And so then after that, it ends up getting a situation where we're just advising, but we're getting nowhere. And the South still getting their butts kicked. And so one day, actually night, foggy, not a good weather night, George Morrison is outside of this Gulf of Tonkin. He's in neutral water. And all of a sudden, the radars pick up 3 things coming towards them fast. And they immediately decide this is an enemy coming towards them. And so he says, okay, fire. And so he launches 3 different attacks onto these 3 different areas, deciding whether he's going to do it. Well, he immediately upon doing this gets a hold of his boss, McNamara, and says, we got attacked in neutral water. Well, it quickly becomes apparent to Morrison that they didn't get attacked. But McNamara sees an opportunity, and instead of telling the whole truth, which is we attacked nothing and we weren't attacked, he turns around and gets a hold of the president. The president then uses this Gulf of Tonkin incident to put into play the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, which says that we need to protect ourselves. And so they start sending massive amounts of troops to South Vietnam to fight in the Vietnamese War. 11 billion in all. I mean, massive amount of people end up over there. So this is in the 60s. This is going to be our second longest war. Afghanistan, which we're still involved in, is the only one that's going to be longer. I got some interesting memories because I'm an old fart, and my Uncle Jim actually went to Vietnam, and he sent me. First thing he sent my brother and I were these big, huge Vietnamese rice hats. It was really cool, and we ran around with those for a while until they obviously probably just got destroyed, and that was the end of them. But the one that I remember the most was all of a sudden we got a package in the mail that was about this big, which is the size of my head. Yeah, package. And unwrapped it and stuff and opened it up, and inside from end to end at an angle was a grasshopper. It was like this massive flipping grasshopper, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. But my Uncle Jim sent me that, which is kind of interesting. The other thing that I vividly remember is when the news was on, one of the things that they would show every single day was a death count. That this is the number of North Vietnamese that have been killed, and this is the American lives that have been lost as well. Every single day we got this, this is the casualties and this is the death count. Man, interesting how we're in a time when you turn on the news, that's one of the first things you see scrolling at the top saying this is what is the people infected, people that have died. Kind of an interesting thing that we live in here. But this Vietnam thing is really pivotal in our history. And it's going to go for too long. And it's going to build up until 1968. And at that point, a really horrific war crime is going to happen, My Lai. And you guys will be looking at that this week. And it's also in 1968 that the Tet Offensive happened. That's a New Year's that they have in Vietnam, and a big celebration. And we've been bombing the snot out of North Vietnam for years and just putting all this money in and everything else. And then on Tet, the North Vietnamese attack everywhere in South Vietnam, all over the place. And we beat them back and win. As a matter of fact, we won every single battle that we fought in the Vietnam War. But people kind of start questioning at that point, is this really worth it? Are we really winning? I mean, if they have done all this damage to us at this point, should we be there? And that's really going to be the kicker that's going to start us moving out and Vietnamizing the war, turning it over to South Vietnam. And the United States eventually is going to get out in the early 70s. And shortly afterwards, South Vietnam falls and North Vietnam wins the war. So technically, we didn't lose it. But did we lose it? All right, so you got some stuff to do. First was to watch this video. And next thing you got after that is you've got some questions from this thing that you're gonna have to have done. And then I think you've got, geez, how many do I see there? 4 different actively learned things to get done as well. So, man, we're getting really close to the end. I think we're gonna make it. So, all right. Pitter patter. Let's get at her. Love and miss you guys.